And we are live. Hello and welcome to Fermenting Opinions. I'm your host, David Poseidon.
I'm your co-host, James McVeigh.
And we are Fermenting Opinions, the podcast and Google Hangout in search of a more palatable political ferment. This is July 2nd, 2019. We are here. We've got Drew, Haley, and RJ with us as well as my co-host and the lovely and talented Janie. We're going to be talking about the first round of primary debates that happened with the Democrats for the 2020 election. 2 nights of wondrous fun.
yeah. I mean, the first night wasn't so bad apparently, but
right, it was 2 night. It ran 2 nights, Wednesday and Thursday of last week, featuring 20 of the quote unquote major candidates. Because there's more. I think it's like officially 25 or more at this point, but like 20 quasi serious candidates that were broken up into what they said at random groups of 10 to be split between these two debates. And we had a couple of debates ran 2 hours each. And the first night was way different than the second night.
Yeah, the first night actually apparently had. I mean, I watched the first night. I keep saying apparently. I watched the first night and didn't catch a second, but there was a lot of substance in the first night. Like people actually fleshed out policy opinions and talked. Some people dodged questions, like no one gave a real answer to how you're going to deal with Mitch McConnell.
That's entirely valid, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth Warren's was, hey, we have to win this election, and we have to take the Senate, and we have to take the House, and we have to keep the House, and we have to take the presidency. That was her response, essentially. Like she didn't really have a way to deal with Mitch McConnell.
I don't think anybody does. I think it's an incredibly fair point.
They ran down the line.
Before we get into any of the candidates, I think that is the thing I want to address. This question was floated. You know, it's 2020, you're president, you've won. Here we are, you've proposed a Supreme Court nominee, and Mitch McConnell is still,
finding
in control of the Senate.
Finding an excuse.
What do you do?
RBG dies 2021 early on or something like that. And then, well, no, I don't. I'm not trying to wish that on anybody. But I'm saying like something like that happens, and you're now proposing a new liberal candidate. And Mitch McConnell says, no.
Right. I mean, first of all, it doesn't have to be a liberal candidate. It can be a moderate. It can
doesn't
be
matter.
It can be anything.
Merrick Garland was moderate, but either way, again, you get hit with the situation where a liberal president or a Democratic president, I guess, a Democratic Party president says, okay, this is my nominee. And Mitch McConnell says, nah, I'm going to stonewall it for another 3 years.
Right. So my thing is, and let's get back to the debates after this. Nobody had a good answer for that. I don't think there is a good answer for it. So
kicking him into a wood chipper might work.
Yeah, I actually have the book on that. If you want to see it, it's right here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I love you, man.
Man, RJ, that was
you're my soul.
So that's you win the Senate, or at least you win in Kentucky, because Mitch McConnell this week said, you know, if the Democrats win in 2020, I'm just not going to have any recourse. It's not politically viable for me to stonewall a Supreme Court nomination for 3 or 4 years, and I don't fucking believe him. So
no, not at all. Not for a fucking second.
But I assume that he'll stonewall it for 3 years.
Yeah, he calls himself the Grim Reaper. So, you know.
Yeah.
I love Cocaine Mitch for that. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I think that his balls are massive, and the man really commands that office of Senate Majority Leader. Like he certainly is impressive. Like,
oh yeah, I mean he is devoted to the destruction of norms within the legislative halls.
Oh yeah, no, but I find it impressive. Like I'm really impressed by that.
So let me ask this: if you were on the debate stage, any of you guys, if you were on the debate stage, how would you answer a question like that? You know who and what Mitch is and how he operates. You're the president. You nominate someone who is moderate, someone who's not, some political partisan for the bench, and he just engages in Mitchness, the pure partisan fuckery that he is known for, and doesn't give a shit that he does it. Like, what would you actually do? Is there anything you can do other than eat it at that point?
I heard maybe back when they had submitted Merrick Garland as a candidate, that if Congress didn't act, then they would be effectively abandoning their duties, and that the executive could then.
Yeah, and that was
But
the,
that would have been like the nuclear option.
I
yeah.
think that's a good point, actually. Because
That's what I would have done in that situation. Is that tacit acceptance is still acceptance. You know, you had advice and consent of the Senate. They had the option to do something. You could just say, "Hey, they didn't do anything, so we're going to take that as tacit acceptance."
Right. My understanding, the way this could have gone, Drew, if I may interject, that if Obama had, foresight as to the political environment we were existing in now, he could have set a deadline. If you guys don't make a recommendation by X date, I'm just going to push through, assuming that you've decided to abdicate your duty in making a recommendation.
Essentially, you're not going to speak up and at least say something negative.
And it would have gone to the Supreme Court, probably.
Truth be told, I'm somewhat surprised, considering that Obama's brought up in the Chicago political combine. I mean, that's basically how they operate. They're like, my way or you're toast.
Yeah. I was surprised by it too.
And I was surprised that he took a more tepid pace towards that.
Obama was tepid in a lot of ways.
Well,
I honestly
be remembered
unless it involved bombing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that most of what happened out of the Obama White House after Scalia's death was based on the incorrect way that pundits have been interpreting polls. And I think that's because we only really went inside baseball on political polls in 2006 or 2008, depending on when you want to break it down. But because the major elections that have happened in 2008 and 2012 at the executive level were so next to guaranteed for Obama, that everyone thought that if the advanced polls said, okay, here are statisticians breaking this down, Hillary is likely to win, that must mean she's going to. Like 99.98%, 99.97%, which was Obama's 2008 chances 3 days before the election, is the same as Hillary being a 2-1 favorite on election day. And it's just not. Like, they're actual statistics. And when you bank everything on a 2-1, I mean, it's not a coin flip at that point, but if your coin had 3 sides, I guess it would be. You sometimes it just doesn't come up your way. And I think that they were way too overconfident in the idea that the Merrick Garland fight didn't matter because Hillary was so likely to win. And at no point in the election was she ever that likely to win.
Yeah. And this is a fun point. A friend of ours, Jody, who you guys know Jody. I don't know if you ever don't, but Jody brought this point up a lot. Was that the reason the polls were wrong, or at least the reason they were skewed so much, is that you can't base statistics off of statistics. And I think that's a good point. I
think there's 2 points there, and then I want to get back to what actually happened in the debates. Yes, taking like an average of statistics is not going to give you, good results.
Well, it's not going to give you an outcome. How about that?
It was not going to give you a good outcome, right? Also, there was a lot of underreporting of Trump support because people didn't want to admit that that's the way that we're going to go. Yeah. That's my understanding, is that they're quietly marching to the polls and doing this thing because they didn't want to be, eviscerated for it, for showing public support for, the avowed pussy grabber. Like they didn't want to have to deal with that, but they were still going to vote for the guy because he was going to ban abortion, or because he was going to do the economic policies that unleash our economy, whatever the fuck. Like, they still supported him, or just as a fuck you, whatever it was. They're still going to support him, but they didn't want to have to deal with the heat with it, so they were not public about it. So polls wouldn't show that support because they were quiet about it.
The 538 breakdown suggested that wasn't the case, but it doesn't really matter whether it was the case or not, because the entire election came down to something that the polls predicted, which was, of the about 1 in 3 times that Trump wins the election, he loses the popular vote, and it's extremely close in the firewall states. So I still think there's a lot of validity to polling, especially the inside baseball style polling. I think the problem is we have an awful lot of people who are paid to have political opinions in all of the major media, and they don't know statistics. And so they take this advanced statistic, these advanced statistics, and don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what Nate Silver was talking about when you're talking about 538. I mean, and that's who Jody was criticizing specifically, was that that the situation was Hillary was predicted on their advanced statistics, basically statistics based on statistics. You know, the idea of taking averages and doing this stuff. She was at 70 to 80% or 78 to 80% chance to win.
She was 2-1 on election day.
Going on that day. I mean, that's higher than 2.
That's still 20 to 30% chance that you're lose.
That's a one.
Hey, I've played a lot of poker. You don't bet your bankroll on a 2-1.
Yeah, well, it wasn't 2-1. It was 4.
It was 2-1.
It was, well.
It was actually a little bit better than 2-1 for Trump.
Anyway, let's wrap this up though. I'd like to go like as David was saying. Let's go back to the
get back to the debate. Let's talk about night one. Who do we have? Who do we think did well? Who do we think tanked? Any opinions?
Right off the gate, I didn't expect Warren to do as well as she did, but honestly, I think the clear winner in night one was Warren. I mean, she owned the entire conversation. Her answers were fantastic. Like, she was on point all the way through. There's a lot of other, frankly, shit show stuff we could talk about that I'll leave to other people. But Warren really commanded the stage. I mean, it was her debate through and through.
It was also her debate to lose.
It was, I guess, but I mean, unlike, you know, and we're skipping ahead to night two, which I didn't see. It was, you know, Biden's debate to lose, but apparently he lost the living hell out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see the second night, guys. I'm going to tell you, I've seen coverage of it, and you know,
No. I mean, like, you're not wrong, James. I actually picked up the book that Biden wrote about the second night of the debate, and I have it right here. I feel like this prop is going to come back a lot tonight. So,
okay,
there's a reason why I included Biden, Yang, and Marianne. What was it, Williamson?
Marianne Williamson. Yep.
Yeah, in that dumpster that was on fire. There's a reason for
We'll get to that. That's the juicy. That's the juicy fun debate.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that in our generally when we were discussing before we were on air, some of us watched the first night, some of us watched the second night, some of us watched both. Who watched the first night?
I did.
Okay, so we got RJ. I can't see Drew. Drew, did you watch?
No, I did. I did.
Got some kind of icon of a pelican or something.
I
don't know what that is.
It looks like some Nazi propaganda.
It does.
Oh,
it looks like some kind of aquatic fascist.
Anyway, no, aquatic.
No, it's actually from Criminal District Court in Orleans Parish.
Yes, yep, I'm well aware.
Which is a Art Deco courthouse.
Yeah, no, it actually I really like that courthouse.
It's a beautiful courthouse that kind of needs a little bit of TLC that just is not
a little lacking in infrastructure. I remember when the BP oil spill happened. Actually, Drew and I were both there for that. Oil spill happened. We didn't have air conditioning, and it was
all right.
You see that I do hand signals when I'm doing this shit under the table.
But you know, getting back on track.
Sure.
Drew, you watched the first night, then, right?
No, I did not.
Okay.
So it's me and RJ essentially.
And myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Guys, what are your thoughts on the first night?
So there's to me there's a difference between like whether or not you're a good candidate, whether or not you're a viable choice, and whether or not you perform well on a debate stage. Case in point, Tulsi Gabbard. She was night one with, was it Tim Ryan?
Yeah, Tim Ryan was in there.
Congressman or something, a representative, whatever.
Yep.
That they were talking about like military deployment and military involvement overseas. Like Tulsi, I don't think truly is a particularly serious candidate. She's not going to grab enough of the vote to be viable when we start, culling people, right? When we start narrowing it down, she's just not going to make the cut. She's not. But on the debate stage, as a tactical move, right? That when Ryan was talking about, oh yeah, we need to maintain the presence, blah blah blah. Tulsi, who is a service member, cuts in with.
She didn't let us forget that
she pulled,
at all.
Right? She really didn't. She pulled the soldier card, saying
Every
like,
fucking
you
time she spoke.
listen here, Mr. Civilian, you don't get to talk about how you get to spend our lives. Like, whether or not it's good for us to maintain a presence in other countries and hostile countries that don't like us, where we're going to lose the lives of service members, whether or not that's a good idea, you're always going to lose that conversation with a service member, right? Because they have that clout, they have that what they're pulling from, right?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean,
You're talking to a soldier about soldiering, essentially.
Yeah, I disagree with you there.
And
I
you're
mean, personally, I think that you can completely still be in the conversation and be a civilian if you're educated. You have to.
I'm saying he wasn't like he couldn't hold that, right?
He fell flat on his face.
It's very easy to lose as a civilian. It's very easy to lose that fight.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like
and I think you're right there, David. And I think that part of the problem is that Tulsi winning battles over other marginal candidates isn't actually helping her on the national stage. Now, it probably is helping her in terms of name recognition in the long run. And when we look at why a lot of these people are in the debate, we know they're not here to win the presidency because they have no realistic path to do so. But a lot of them are going to make a lot of money and or get a lot of political clout for the future because they're where they're standing right now. And we're just talking about the top 20.
Yeah. No,
cough,
that's
Bill
true.
de Blasio, cough.
Okay.
But
I think that's the whole point. You know, she's really good on. She talks about her stance on foreign policy. You don't see her veering off of other topics, and you know, I would assume that she realizes that she's not a viable candidate to actually get the nomination. But, you know, she does have plans for her future political career. She does have policy that she wants to push. This is a chance to air this policy that she maybe wants to sponsor in the near future to the entire country. And build up support for certain positions that she may have. And I mean, that's a goal for a lot of the people. Yes, you know, they're going to get money. They're going to be able to sell a book about the time they ran for president, and they're going to get this other stuff. But, you know, I also, and you know, maybe I'm overly optimistic or naive, but I do still think that they're campaigning for more than just the presidency. They're campaigning for their political ideology, platforms that they want to push, things that can be recognized on the national stage. So I think that's part of the equation as well.
I mean, I agree absolutely. I think
I totally.
A lot of to roll back quickly, and I don't want to spend too much time there, but to 2016, Bernie and his platform, he pulled that conversation so far left.
Yeah.
Hillary, when she got the nomination, you know, Bernie endorsed her, and
anybody who's
most of her platform was in agreement with his platform, like 80% of the stuff he wanted.
Maybe 80%. I'd say closer to 60. But
well, the candidates now.
Again, not to spend too much time there.
That's the point.
The point
candidacy now is
exactly.
Yeah, no, everybody is far left. I mean,
the point being, hang on a second.
You know.
The point being is that he, in that role, acted as kind of like a thought leader who's moving the platform a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, he had a lot of influence.
He had a lot
I
of
think
support
there are a fair number of candidates that were on this stage these two nights that were doing the exact same thing.
I mean,
people who know they're not going to win.
No, I mean,
I think like another prime example is that Kristen Gillibrand or.
I think Gillibrand probably wants to be a more serious contender than she is.
I mean, she probably does, but what was the main thing that she hit? Family health care, women's rights, reproductive rights, family leave, family child care. You know, that was her main. I'm trying to finish this thought, dude. that was her main spiel the whole night. She was, you know, piggybacking off of Bernie with the Medicare for all, and you know, really, you know, demonstrating or showing that she's a big women/family advocate.
Yeah, and that was. I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. That was. But all of her points that she made are somebody else's position that she stole. Like other people have already put that forward. Gillibrand's only.
I thought the word was enjoined.
But Gillibrand's only claim to fame is that she got Al Franken removed from his Senate seat. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what she did. Like, she has never done anything that's worth talking about, except for the fact that she led this push to dethrone.
But I wasn't mentioning any of her accomplishments, and I'm grouping her in a non-viable candidate category and saying, what did she do? She pushed one specific general theme policy, just like Tulsi, foreign policy. With Gillibrand, it was family planning.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come off saying that. Like, I just wanted to point out the fact that
No, and but I think that's a really good point, because there are some people in these debates that don't have anything to lose. They're sitting in safe seats. They can push something into the policy platform of the Democratic Party. If they, catch lightning in a bottle, they become the next president. But that's probably not going to happen. Yeah. So they get to get their ideas out there, exactly what Haley's saying, and they get to do it in a way that is completely safe to them politically, because their political seat is safe. And I think that's a legitimate way of going about politics, at least.
Yeah, I'd agree. And honestly, yeah, and I apologize if I came off the wrong way, but yeah, I think Haley's absolutely right. Like, what Haley was saying is right on point. I was just pointing out the fact that the only reason I even know Gillibrand's name is because she dethroned Al Franken.
Right. And that's saying more for her than a lot of candidates that we saw and on that stage.
But I mean, that's part of the idea of the left eating their own. Like,
but is it though? Like, I don't know. We saw
debates.
People who are trying. Okay, yes, they're debates, right? And people are out to win a debate, and that there's a strategy to that is separate from what is truly viable as a potential future president. Because it's a contest, it's a game, it's got its own rules in a sense, whether or not they're written. But you have these thought leaders, these people who interject interesting ideas, controversial ideas, people who are never going to be president, and we already know who we're talking about, right?
Your De Blasios,
your De Blasios, your
Tim
Yangs,
Ryans, your
Ryans,
your
your Williamsons. Okay, these people.
Yeah, but Yang is probably trying to get people to start talking about universal basic income,
right?
Or PowerPoint. It could just be PowerPoint.
Stop. I don't know. Hey, look, I'm going to tell you from the secret, depths of the right wing realm. I'll tell you that Yang is the person they support, and they're doing it jokingly, the same way they joke. But they did it.
It's not actual support.
They did it the same way they were jokingly supporting Trump, and they won a fucking election through that. Like, be afraid of the right wing weirdo shit they do, because honestly,
it's such an outlier.
But
Trump
4chan
is an
and
outlier.
8chan and all of those,
no, but Trump had
all of those basement dwelling weirdos. That's their thing, and when they do it, they actually make pushes. They actually start.
But they can play on the racist tropes. They can play on the isolationist tropes. They can play on all of that.
But
they're
shit. They're not playing on any of that for Yang. They're playing on the universal basic income.
They're playing on secure the bag.
It's called secure the bag. Yep.
Yeah, Yang. I get all of that. That is going to run into a brick wall called hashtag it's socialism. Like, that's where that buck is going to stop.
Yeah, I mean the boomers will end there, but the question is all the young people that voted for Trump, because there was a lot of them.
Yang doesn't have enough Democratic support. He does not have enough support amongst right-wing trolls.
I mean, just let it happen. If
primaries, man. Like, I don't know.
Yang got.
I don't actually think Yang has a shot in hell.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Just let James think he does. Who cares?
I don't think he does. What I'm saying is, be careful of the right-wing trolls. They pollute this shit. That's what they do. They have fun doing it. I am more concerned, but they won an election in 2016.
I'm more concerned about right-wing trolls promoting Williamson than I am about them promoting Yang.
I am also not concerned about that, but I'm actually loving the right-wing trolls that bumped Andrew Yang up to about 85 to 88 cents on
predicted
right before.
It was even better odds than that.
I bought him at 88 cents. I bought 240 shares at 88 cents. So I'm making 12 cents on the dollar for the nomination. and I bought about that many on
All right, money bags.
likelihood to make the presidency. 411 shares apparently is how many I have for the presidency at 87 cents. And I mean, thanks guys.
Have you guys
Hashtag gang gang.
Have you not sold yet? Like,
why would I sell? They're only at 94 cents. I'm waiting to go all the way up to $1.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like I mean, I'm with you guys. I don't think
he's going to drop out, and then they'll be worth $1.
When he drops out, if Marianne Williams is still in there, hey, hashtag spoiler alert, jump on her bandwagon because they love her too.
They're trying to make candidates like Williamson.
Yeah, no, they're
like,
just trying to pull.
Oh yeah, this is the best.
They want another idiot to be president.
Yeah,
they already have one idiot that got elected.
Yeah.
Now they're looking.
But we're mixing nights 1 and 2 right now.
We are.
And
fair. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I would love to talk about how Beto O'Rourke stepped on his dick and ruined the entire chance he might have had at a presidency.
Beto O. Peggy Hill.
Oh my God, Beto O. Peggy Hill. Like, he broke out his 8th grade Spanish for his first answer when someone pitched him a question on, hey, do you support a 70% marginal tax on people who earn more than $10 million a year? He gave a non-committal answer and then repeated it in Spanish. He
started in Spanish and repeated it in English.
No, he started in English.
Did he?
Yep. He gave it in English. It was so memorable that he started in English. But yeah, he started in English and dodged the question, then switched to Spanish, then got called out by the moderator and saying like, hey, do you want to answer my question? And he was like, no, I don't. But here's another minute of me talking, not answering your question. Right. But he threw it out in Spanish. And the look on Cory Booker's face when he did it, Cory Booker looked at him like, oh, no, baby, what is you doing? I was so bad. I mean, it was a train wreck when he did it. Like,
well, he hasn't been employed for a little while, so you know.
Yeah, he's really.
Here's the thing about Beto. He's good at being tall. That's what.
Beto.
Beto, whatever. I said Beto.
Yeah. Oh, you white person that name.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm so sorry. But anyway, he's exposed himself to having not really a lot of substance.
Yeah,
right?
It's really boring.
He did not answer a direct question. That was sort of a plague of both nights of the debate. Someone was given sort of a very explicit question, and they danced around it and hand waved. And they would answer in Spanish first, and then they would repeat themselves.
Well, no, the only person with that question to do that was Beto. That was his.
No,
thing.
Bernie dodged the shit out of the question.
Oh, I didn't
honestly, Bernie really aggravated me. And the thing is, I agree with a lot.
We'll get back to that on night 2, Haley. I promise you, we will. But
yeah,
to finish about
Beto.
Beto. Okay, finish with Beto. And the Spanish speaking thing, because that's a point I really want to touch on. Yet I don't think he had a lot of substance. He's popular. He's tall. I'm saying that. I'm saying that for humorous effect.
Fairly attractive man.
Make your point, Dave.
Where I'm getting at is, what do you guys think about the Spanish language responses to questions?
I think if you're not fluent, you shouldn't be talking.
So everybody, you mean everybody then, right? Like Julian Castro is not.
He's not fluent.
No, and he recognized that, and he answered one part in his closing on that, and I appreciate him limiting it. But Booker gives this look.
I think Beto is the worst.
Here's my problem: is that Booker gives this look. Like, you're a dumbass, and then the next thing he does is start answering in Spanish, and he breaks out his 9th grade Spanish too. Like, all right, cool. No,
but that's Booker. That's Booker in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, follower, bootlicking follower.
That's how Booker works. He's like, that's stupid. Oh shit, maybe it's not. Well, I can't not do it.
Yeah,
I know a little bit of Spanish, so here you go.
But here's the thoughts I had, because there's a conflicting thing, right? I can't decide how I feel about it, and I'm just kind of putting it out there to all of you, right?
Yeah.
So the bad Spanish, the Peggy Hill Spanish, right, is like, it sounds bad.
Yeah, but Peggy Hill is fluent, so let's give her that.
Yeah, Espanol. She knows it. Yeah. Espanol.
She doesn't speak it really well, but she knows it.
Yeah, I'm not fluent.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's Julian Castro. But at least he admits that.
Point being, does it still work?
No.
Does it still play? Wait.
No.
We're a bunch of non-native
Let him finish his question.
individuals, okay? Like for us, it sounds pandering. It sounds canned. It sounds kind of pathetic, right? It does.
Mm-hmm.
2 points though. One, this individual, this candidate is making an attempt.
Mm-hmm.
As a native Spanish speaker, do you appreciate that? Do you admire that? You can't answer this question because you're not.
I know.
Wait. And two, imagine just for a second, this is the 2020 Republican primary debate, and somebody speaks in Spanish.
Awesome.
Can you imagine how fucked that candidate is in that moment when they're trying to speak Spanish at a Republican primary debate?
Yeah, that's why they shouldn't do the Democratic debate. But
Why would they be?
Because of
Well, the
white
idea that-
nationalism.
I
I
feel
not to
bad.
bury
I
the lead
feel
too
really-
hard there,
I feel
but
really bad, first of all, that we had to ask that question about why would they do. You know, yes, it is possible to be a Republican.
is it
and
pandering? Is
actually
it working?
it's
Does somebody
possible-
appreciate the effort? That's what I'm saying.
It's
Does that
possible-
matter to people?
It's possible to be a Republican and actually care about the plight of immigrants. I know that's a far gone idea.
Not for a
right?
viable
I
Republican
know it's
candidate.
a far gone idea under the Mitch McConnell fucking rule of Congress, and it's definitely a far gone idea.
I'm not trying to paint all Republicans as the
I know,
cartoon
but I'm saying
villain,
that, like,
racist shitbag thing.
Like, here's the issue.
But is it still political suicide? I think so.
Here's the issue that I had just in general. No one used it to actually address an immigration topic. Like every person
Fair.
who did it dodged a question and spoke in Spanish.
But what do you
And
got?
It had
What do
nothing
you,
to do with immigration, and it had nothing to do with honestly what Spanish speakers in our country would give a shit about.
that's fair. But what do you think? Because I just want to stay on this subject specifically of what I raised. What do you think about the fact that it happened? It just happened. Period. Whatever was being addressed, that it happened.
Train wreck.
Okay.
Next
Train wreck.
person. Next person.
Drew, what do you think?
I thought it was insincere, and I think that is a problem for those candidates.
Yeah.
Just generally, I think that a lot of people are feeling disaffected with their candidates in general and with their politicians, and when they outstretch with this fake insincere commentary, I don't think it helps them in the long run.
Well, I have a different take, but Matias actually just got in, and he's fluent in Spanish, so we can ask him whenever he walks upstairs. But
Would you like to give his answer in Spanish?
yeah, I mean,
That was a joke. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was a David is high joke. Like,
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
this is gonna be great.
No, that was a pretty good joke.
Anyway, go ahead, Haley. Sorry.
I mean, I'm trying to learn another language right now, and I have to talk to these native speakers of that language, and to like be generous. I sound horrible. Very American accent. Most of the all of the feedback that I've ever gotten is you're doing great, like keep going. I really appreciate that you're trying to learn this. Yeah. And, I'm not fluent in any other language but English. I don't know any Spanish. And, I get that it probably sounds hokey and we can start being really judgmental, but I do think that, there's something to be said about just demonstrating that you've tried to learn another language, like you've made the effort to try to learn Spanish, and there's, a very decent amount of Spanish speakers in our country. And so, yeah, maybe they all did have horrible accents, but they know more than I do. They know more than most elected officials. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
true.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from with that. Like, and I think you're absolutely, I think you're on the same point, and that's excellent. I mean, that's, the idea of making the effort to address people in this country, not just in English, but in a language they speak, because we do have a large amount of Spanish speakers. The issue is, I think you probably should have tailored, not you, but, the general you, I guess.
Royal you.
The royal you.
Yes, the royal.
There is
yes.
no royal you, but yes, the royal you.
Do you want to, sorry.
The idea that you should have really tailored these answers for something like an immigration or something like that, where people actually care who speak that language.
I totally agree with you there, James.
Yeah.
I think that the problem with the Spanish during night one, at least, was that it came off as rehearsed. It came off as something that was, I scripted this and I'm going to insert it here because I memorized these language forms in this order to be spoken to this topic. And I don't understand
the shit off of Google Translate.
Yeah, and I don't understand why they wouldn't have tailored it to something that is important to the people who are most likely to speak that language.
Yeah,
and
I mean that's just a bad, campaign decision.
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
So that was a stupid planning move on their part,
Yeah,
and that could be criticized. But I don't think attempting to speak Spanish is.
No,
Yeah, of course we could criticize the choice of what they decided to do it on. What, like apparently some econ stuff and not immigration. That's
it was
stupid.
simply the marginal tax rate.
It was speaking poor Spanish.
Yeah.
They had rehearsed it.
The question. That's what it was.
Did he whip it? I assume that this happened relatively early on in the debate too.
Yes,
It kind of happened throughout.
It was Beto's
to be honest.
first question.
Yeah.
Beto's first question was, "I'm going to give 35 to 40."
But I mean that just means that he clearly didn't want the debate to last much longer because he had to think during it, and he was worried that he might forget some of the stuff that he just memorized.
Yeah,
So he had to throw it out as soon just to get it out.
I like that take. I like that take.
I agree with you. Yeah, I know, train wreck thing. I mean, Beto ruined any chance he absolutely had.
I mean, not a train wreck, but I wasn't throwing an immigration question. Here it is.
Yeah, he kind of train wrecked that one though.
No, he really train wrecked it. I mean, it was a disaster. And the worst part is that Cory Booker tanked his own campaign right afterwards with another train wreck response of, let me choose another option who's like, another question posed to me. Let me show off that I speak rudimentary Spanish.
Well, here's
it had
the thing.
nothing to do with it.
Here's the difference, and I think some people maybe played this a little bit better than others. So if it's a canned, rehearsed response, I know I'm going to get X question. I'm going to respond with this, in my Peggy Hill Spanish, and it's going to sound really bad and canned and whatever. Versus, here's me making an attempt to a Spanish
exactly.
language, and I'm being extemporaneous, right? I'm trying to go with this. I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. I make an effort because I care about every demographic that I represent.
And Julian
versus just trying to appear as
and
such.
Julian Castro's answer that he actually gave was his closing argument, and he actually
Castro did a lot better than
he
the others.
delivered his broken ass Spanish.
Well, and I think that one of the things that I've heard y'all say as a takeaway from that moment is he acknowledged that he wasn't fluent.
Yes, he
did.
did.
Acknowledged his flaws in it, but he showed that he was trying.
Yes,
and that's
Do we want
that's point in doing that strategy? Sorry.
Go ahead, RJ.
No, and I think that even though I'm not trying to mix up the two nights too much, Buttigieg actually seemed to answer a question very briefly in Spanish when he was asked extemporaneously. That was the only time that Spanish was used during the two nights where it sounded like an actual Spanish speaker, which was someone on the panel, spoke to him in a way that was not pre-rehearsed. And then Buttigieg responded in Spanish because he actually speaks Spanish probably quasi-fluently.
Yeah. Well enough. I mean, the man speaks 7 languages.
Right.
Well enough.
That was the only time that I felt that it came off as genuine. And that kind of speaks to Drew's point, which is if you're going to use another language, it doesn't necessarily work for you just to say, I'm trying real hard. It should come off as something like, I'm actually trying to speak this language. I'm actually trying to understand where you come from as a person. And frankly, I thought that Buttigieg, which was if it took 2 seconds, it was 2 seconds. but that was it in terms of the 2 nights of debate
Wait,
where someone responded in Spanish.
can I ask a question about that?
Go ahead.
I just want to. I thought Julian Castro's actual attempt to speak Spanish and his closing argument was pretty solid. He didn't do it beforehand, and he's acknowledged he's not fluent in it.
Yeah, I agree, but it was pre-rehearsed.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You
It's a
think it
closing
was-
comment.
you
It has
think
to be
it's-
pre-rehearsed.
Yeah.
It's a closing comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was memorized.
If you are a candidate for the president of the United fucking States of America,
Why would you pre-rehearse?
any debate stage you're
You
on,
always
if
pre-rehearse
you
your
have a
closing.
closing comment, you're
No,
going to
I
rehearse
know
that.
you pre-rehearse your closing. Look,
If you're
I'm
not a complete joke.
Okay, I've been a trial lawyer for a while. I know you pre-rehearse your closing. I'm asking a question. I'm saying, like, yo, why, why do you think that he broke that out? Because it didn't seem like he was going to go that route. He just did it. I thought his Spanish was kind of solid, and it's the only person in night 1. I didn't see night 2, and I am ashamed that in night 2 they did the same shit. Like, are you serious? How many candidates in night? We'll transition to that.
So what's the?
Well, my point is that I thought his was actually genuine, where he like really took a stab at it. It didn't seem pre-rehearsed. It seemed like he was struggling with the language in general and just kind of putting it forward and saying something about immigration. Like,
No, and I think that's a great point. And I think that's your original point, right? That's what you first said. It's if you're going to speak to people in their language, then you should speak to things that matter to those people, and we know it matters to those people. So this might be a good. I'm not trying to overstep here, but this might be a good transition moving toward night 2.
I agree.
But who were our night 1 winners? Obviously, we all said Warren. We didn't even talk about her. That's how much she won night 1.
Yeah, I mean,
She got randomly slotted into the best spot that she could have possibly been in because she didn't have to do anything other than say, yeah, I've got a plan for that, and then talk about some of her plans.
The only other thing, if I may interject, the only other thing where she stood out in a way that may be contentious is when she was talking about doing away with, privately funded healthcare.
Yes.
And I can't remember who asked the question. One of the moderators or whatever said, "Who would do that?" And her hand was right the fuck up immediately.
Yep.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but she stood out for it exceptionally.
If I can, I think this is a good time, as RJ said, to transition to night 2.
Sure.
I don't know much about night 2, and I'm going to take a leave of absence for a second, but I will point out one thing. The same question essentially that went in night 1 about who supports Medicare for all and cutting private insurance out was posed in night 2. The only people to raise their hands were Harris and Bernie. Harris went ahead the next day and said, I didn't understand the question and I don't support eliminating private insurance.
Yeah, but nobody wants to actually eliminate private insurance, right? Like that's what she's trying to.
Some people do. Some people do. Warren wants to. De Blasio wanted to, if I remember correctly.
I don't recall that.
And obviously Bernie does. He invented the idea.
Yeah, but they don't actually want to. They want to make everybody covered under a public option. But you can still get private insurance. You can still sell private insurance. You can still buy private insurance.
They all specifically said they want to eliminate private insurance. That's what they said was, this is a shitty racket. We don't want health insurance anymore to exist. I mean, that was the question.
I think what's implied there is it's a shitty racket. If we give people a really good public option, no one will take the private option.
So this is a good point to transition to night 2, and I'm gonna let you guys have at it. I'll be gone for about 5 minutes. I'll be back. I did not.
He has to pee and get more bourbon.
Yeah. For the record,
but then vote on night 1 first before you go.
Vote on
night 1, I'll tell you straight up, Elizabeth Warren won it, grand slam, knocked out of the park. Yeah. It's not even a question. Yep. If I'm gonna ask somebody who came in second place, I'd tell you Julian Castro did it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, obviously I've got to give it to Warren too. I think the biggest moment of all of this, all this other little, petty whatever, when she extolled that healthcare is a human right, and when that's a deeper subject that maybe we'll get into some other day, that it's a human right, as in we should absolutely guarantee this for all citizens. is a human right. That's the point to harp on. That's the point that resonates with people. I think in that moment, her and everyone who joined her did well, but she won in that moment, I think. Who's
or
next?
any other moment that she spoke when she just
she did
slam dunked on everybody.
She did well. She dunked on people.
I mean, she was.
But I'm saying that's the defining moment.
She was straight
To
up
not-
like late 90s Michael Jordan.
Is it a
just
service?
dunking
Is
on
it a
everybody.
right? Is it blah,
Didn't
blah,
matter.
blah?
Elizabeth Warren just showed.
Cool. Can we move on?
Yes. That's why I was trying to ask you guys what you thought. I said my piece.
Oh,
RJ
I have
Haley,
no
yourself,
opinion.
sir.
I didn't see it.
Night one was definitely all Warren. She did more than she needed to, and she was already playing in the sort of junior ball league. She solidified herself as a serious candidate going forward. I think that there were a number of candidates that didn't necessarily hurt themselves outwardly, like Beto did, which we've all kind of acknowledged. But that doesn't matter so much when there are 20 plus candidates, because if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. I would agree with James that Julio and Castro probably did second best out of night one. That's my takeaway.
RJ likes me, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
More than you deserve. But yes, yeah.
Night two that I really missed. So.
Okay, yeah. Night two was like, okay. Night one was like, let's have these, substantive kind of questions. Let's see what we can do, address them, blah blah blah. Night two was
let's be respectful. Let's not talk over each other.
Yeah, exactly. And night two was very reminiscent of
the assassination of Julius Caesar. Caesar being Biden.
Yes.
A2, Drew.
Accurate, but also it reminded me a lot of the Republican primary debates of 2016 when it was just a fucking mudslinging fight.
Well, it's a death by 1,000 cuts, and that's what's basically starting here.
Yeah, and we're I hope Biden's corpse has been well preserved at this point, and treated with cosmetizing and what have you.
Yeah, and night two actually
he got actually slaughtered. He did.
Yeah, night two sent me a card, and I have it here for everybody. Night two said, "It's showtime."
Oh, man, you're my soul twin, brother. I'm telling you.
I do wonder, the impact of the fact that really the only front runner in night one was Warren. And then night two was stacked. And, they're also having a fight with, who is that, like, torch dude? Pass the torch or whatever.
Swalwell. It's Swalwell.
They're in Williamson, of course.
There's so much fun here.
So there were people who are going into this debate, and it's not just Warren. They're solid at least 4 or 5 in the second debate who are top tier contenders. And so they're going in like, all right, I need to swing, and I need to swing hard.
So they threw the biggest target in the room, which was Biden at that point.
Yeah. And so, I do think that it was like a little bit of a preview of, but also, really the the candidates who were doing the most talking over other candidates, interrupting, really trying to push, whatever they have to say, weren't one of the 4 or 5 main contender people who were on the stage. All those people kind of held back, with the exception of Harris. She stepped in a few times to get everyone to calm down, to be frank.
The thing about it's a not a food fight or whatever. It's about how we put food on people's tables or something like that. She was like, okay, I feel like that was a very prepared, she had anticipated some kind of shit fight where she could step in and look like she was owning the moment. But she also stepped in and owned that moment. And in terms of tactical debate skills, she did phenomenally well there. She really did.
Oh, I don't know about that. I thought that she was I don't know. I thought she was pretty weak.
When she said that, you thought it was weak?
Well, let me put it this way: like across the board, she fumbled on a lot of answers, and I mean, RJ, you brought this up as well.
Drew and I talked a bit about this.
Oh yeah.
During the debate, and we said that Harris was getting those zingers in, right? She was getting lines. She was the one that was saying, okay, I understand how the debate structure works, and I'm going to hit when I can. But man, she got asked some questions where she looked flat-footed. There were some points there where she didn't look prepared when she should have been. And I think that she's gotten, I mean, first of all, she's gotten a ton of upside out of this. Today, there were 2 different polls that were produced that showed that she was either ahead or behind of Biden by 2 points. They were on either side of Biden by 2 points. And that's crazy for someone who was at 5% or below before these debates. Mm-hmm. But she came out and she probably did what she needed to do for a primetime audience when there were 20 people involved. But I think that the things that she showed, the weaknesses that she showed, are going to imperil her going forward. I don't see her holding this position.
So
I agree with that.
Whenever I watch the debates, like the next day, I of course saw all the headlines, and she just, have just gotten overwhelmingly positive, feedback from it. But I don't remember. I mean, I remember the food comment. I remember the busing bit. But overall, I generally didn't, those are good zingers, like y'all said. But I don't really remember anything else. I don't remember her saying anything, maybe even policy wise that I thought was interesting. So, whenever y'all were saying flat-foot, I was actually wondering if you could recall like some of the questions that you felt were flat. But I also think that she wouldn't ask hard questions in general.
I want to interject really fast, and I think that's a really good question. And I just want to say, I want to come back to, can we please talk about Chuck Todd at some point tonight?
Which one was he?
He was the asshole.
Not the torch guy, not the millennial.
No, the moderator.
One of the moderators.
The moderator.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think that's I think it connects to your point, because what the hell are these people being asked? I mean, some of these candidates spoke for less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think Yang got the least of the.
Yeah, Yang got about 2 minutes.
He was round 2. Yeah,
I think that Yang fumbled his very first pass. So, can he really be mad if he wasn't thrown the ball that often?
I agree. His response was, "What?" And then he followed into it because, he totally missed that he was next in line to talk.
Yeah,
and I thought that was completely insane.
Yeah, I mean, his first question did not go well for him, and and he clearly just didn't look like he knew how to handle a debate. And if I was a moderator, I'd be like, all right, steer clear of that guy. He's freaking out, and he's gonna say something weird if I call him.
Yeah, totally. But that's a great point, because what are these debates based around, right? They're based around what's going to get the best ratings for NBC. So they're going to ask questions like, everybody raise your hand if you think some platitude. There's probably a bunch of nuanced answers between raising your hand and not raising your hand, except these people aren't going to be able to make that answer. They have to raise their hand or not. It's just like when the moderators say, in 1 or 2 words, what's the most important point about the 2020 election? And everyone just goes
paragraphs,
and they just go on. And it's just like, okay, just say beat Trump or free healthcare or no student debt and move forward from that. I really thought that, to your point about Yang, I think he missed a really good laugh line, which would really have helped him, because he came off as like the sweaty guy who just didn't know where he was and was a little bit nervous. When they gave him that one word, what's the 2020 debate about? He should have been like PowerPoint. And I think people would have loved that.
I agree.
I think it would have been a laugh. I think that it would have made him seem approachable, and it would have been the sort of thing that the hashtag Yang Gang would have really glommed onto. But instead, he gave them nothing that whole night. And it's unfortunate for him, because I don't really care about Yang.
And he might have been flustered. True.
Oh no, he was flustered because he looked flustered.
Like somebody shot a dog in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking Bambi. He just watched Bambi bleed out. Like, it was bad. But yeah, so again, it's what I referenced sort of earlier in the conversation. Like, there's, what is this person's viability as a candidate? Are they doing something to increase their viability as a candidate? Versus how are they on the debate stage? How good are they at debating and scoring points in a debate setting?
I
Yang
kind
is
of-
obviously shit at that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Kamala Harris is obviously fantastic at it.
Yes.
So, like, where Yang may have some interesting points to raise that I think is something that we as a civilization are going to have to face sooner or later. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're ready at all. Like, he raises some very interesting and valid points, whereas Harris is really good at fucking digging into somebody and finding weakness and exposing it, as she did with Biden on the whole busing thing. But, like, she's also not a particularly viable candidate of herself. But she did get to make herself look good in that stage, right? And
I mean, she's
optics
undeniably
count for something. I don't like it, but it does.
She's tier 1 today, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Drew, I think you were about to say what I'm about to say.
No, just go ahead. You'll say it better than I am. I will.
Well, I was just going to say that Drew and I talked about Kamala Harris, and clearly she has a good law background. Clearly she has a lot of experience. No one would deny that. People who are good at law are generally, and when we're talking about law as a prosecutor, we're talking about litigation. They can generally talk on their feet. They should be able to handle these situations. And both Drew and I felt like she came up a little short. She had her prepared statements. She knew she was going to say the food fight thing. She knew that she was going to hit Biden over busing. Other than that, she was asked some questions where she did not look like she had mastery of the topic.
You know what? Her closing statement, I'm sorry to interrupt, but her closing statement sounded like she was, a block of wood that somehow became animated. Like, it was really bad. Like, for all her fucking fire that she launched at Biden, which I really think that was her whole point of being involved was to take pot shots at somebody else and make herself look good as a result, which she did phenomenally, I think. But in terms of, like, what she had to say, like, her and, like, was it Amy Klobuchar, I think?
Yep.
Like, their closing statements were very extraordinarily forgettable, very wooden, very there's no fire, there's no animation behind it. So to speak of her own, her own standing and her own credentials, not in relief to somebody else, she didn't seem like she had much going on.
Right.
Actually, it makes me wonder how much she actually, prepared for this, because, she is a litigator. She is a trial attorney. And, you can, one of the things that has to come with the job is zingers. You got to know, that's just, that's the territory that you're constantly swimming in. And it makes me wonder how much she, like, truly thought that she would do extremely well in this and become a first tier candidate versus, she was in the top 5, but I think she was polling at like 3%, 2%.
It's super low. It really is. She's more Googled now, if she was going for that. But again,
she's the lead person on Predicted.
Really? That's wild, because I don't really think she has a shot at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's a wave.
Wait, Harris?
Yeah, she's number 1 in Predicted.
She's number 1 in Predicted.
Yeah.
She's number 1 in one poll and number 2 in another. Biden's falling apart. We can talk about Biden all night.
Yeah, he's.
Let's now
for Biden. So
let's transition to Biden and Bernie, because those were the presumptive frontrunners, right? The two of them. They had the top polling going in. Biden rose to the cream of the crop, essentially, in terms of polls, just by entering the race, just by existing as Joe Biden. Like, he came to the top immediately. I've got to highlight RJ's can. Do it again. Put it back up.
James leave?
Fleeting youth. James is pursuing more bourbon, I think. That's my property, but that's okay. He can put it in his body and poison his liver with it. That's fine. I don't mind. Not bitter. RJ, what you drinking there, sir?
Bullet Rye 95.
Okay, Bullet Rye is good stuff. 95. I don't. This
I just
that
had to make
designation doesn't mean anything to me necessarily. Oh, okay.
I just had to make sure that I don't start getting my wine whiskers, whenever you're like.
I don't see wine whiskers, but you're also
you're too
painfully white right now.
I know.
Whatever.
It's my work computer.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you.
I'm almost as white as you, but that's just because I'm washed out and I think my sugar's low or something. I don't know, but which I should be able to improve by drinking bourbon, I would think, but maybe not necessarily.
Yeah. No,
Anyway.
I think your point is correct. That coming in, we obviously had a number one and a number two, and that they were living off of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Right. That's all that they were.
Proximity to Obama, at least for Biden.
Right, but proximity to the past. I mean, that's what. Yeah, I agree. It's.
I didn't hear what Drew said.
He said proximity to Obama.
Oh yeah, I mean that was his whole thing. Was, by the way, I'm pretty good friends with Obama. That was his whole.
Well, that's his counter to the busing thing. That's it's the ultimate. I have a black friend, right? Who happened to have been the president.
I don't know if I
talk about Biden. Yes,
I apologize.
and the busing thing.
We're talking about the busing thing.
We're kind of we're talking about Biden and Bernie. The fact essentially their markets are saturated, right? In terms of name recognition, everybody already knows who they are. Who's paying any fucking attention to politics whatsoever? People either like them or don't like them already. They are where they are already.
Yeah, they have their name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Biden is representative of the old guard, and Bernie is representative of that sort of revolutionary old guard to some degree.
He's representative of someone standing out and giving bad directions.
I have a question. How did everyone think Bernie did?
Poorly.
He sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't see much of it, but
Just
from
came
what I
across
understand, like
angry.
watching highlights and whatnot, Bernie yelled a whole lot like an old man and really didn't do shit.
Okay, so two things, because I'm not anti-Bernie. I think actually, rewind back to 2016. I voted for him in the primary.
Yeah, me too.
2016.
I mean,
Well, you did. It was a troll vote.
No, it wasn't.
Like.
No, it wasn't.
Because you didn't like Hillary. It was the anti-Hillary vote.
Yeah, it was an anti-Hillary vote. But
I don't know.
I like Bernie.
Let David finish.
Let's not go into it too much. But Bernie, and it's fucking infuriating when someone asks you a direct question. Give a direct goddamn answer.
That was something that
I see it.
I get it. That
a lot of people see it.
Totally blow up all of these corrupt rules.
And that's one.
But the thing is, this is a debate, and I know that you want to blow them all up, blow all the corruption up.
Are you gonna do XYZ? Do you support this? Do you support that? Yes or fucking no.
That
defend the point.
Really bothered me.
And he failed to do that.
And I didn't see the second half of the debate, but I will say the only person who actually answered those questions, yes or no, in the first debate, was Warren.
Yeah, she did. No,
she's the only actual person, and she dodged the Mitch McConnell answer because there's not an answer.
There's not an answer for it
because
I
really your god.
It was a little bit premature, but you got to.
Anyway.
But that I'm not going to go back to it. But I do think that for day one, it was Warren's day to lose. Everyone was like, "You need to do really well. We're expecting you to do well." And that's the thing. I don't think that anyone had that expectation that Biden or that Bernie was going to dominate night two. It wasn't pitched in that same way. It wasn't their debate to lose. It was their debate to defend. And, so it was like they had already won it. They just had to keep the title. Whereas I think Warren walked in, she didn't have that kind of deference going into the debate. She still had to score.
I think that's great.
She wrote it.
Yeah.
So, going back to Bernie, point two. A question he was asked. It would, in fairness, very difficult question. You're Bernie Sanders president, right? You just got elected. You haven't got rid of Mitch McConnell. He's still there. You're trying to appoint a Supreme Court justice. He won't do it. He's engaging in fuckery as he does, without any, hint of irony or hypocrisy, whatever. You just can't get around him. He's an immovable object, right?
Drone strike.
Drone strike. Yes, I love the idea of some, clandestine, horrible death from Mitch McConnell.
Hang on. What?
But hang on. It was asked to him in the debate, and you probably didn't see this. What would you do to get around him? Like
they pitched that question.
They pitched that question to Bernie Sanders. So, what comes to most of our minds is, we're gonna try to set the courts. We're gonna do X, Y, Z. He floated the idea on the debate stage that there is some constitutional mechanism of rotating out Supreme Court.
I know what you're talking about.
Rotating out or otherwise retiring Supreme Court justices that he could invoke. And that is, as far as I understand, is complete whole cloth.
No. I mean, this is literally first year law school. You're a 1L, and you didn't do the fucking reading Article 3. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that. No. Okay, but
so
anyone have
again,
a better thought on
for
that?
The broad strokes of my takeaway of that is that he fabricated an answer that will never pass muster ever, and is ridiculous and preposterous. And I don't know how a person could spend their life in politics for as many decades as he has, and could go on a debate stage and say that fucking shit. Right, a guy that I voted for in 2016 as a primary candidate, and I think is objectively, again, I think a rotted ham sandwich would be a better president than Donald Trump, but that Bernie Sanders would be a better president than Donald Trump, and could go on a debate stage and say something like that is deeply troubling to me. Am I the only one who had that what the shit kind of moment when he said that? Am I the only one?
No.
I was just
completely insane. Go ahead.
One of the things that I was thinking, just because this Mitch McConnell question came back up, and it was just like, David had kind of asked earlier, and I was zoned out. But like, if I was president, what would I do? And I mean, yes, there's a lot of factors to consider, like who actually is in office, who, what is your, who can you stack on your team and everything, and like what actually can you get done? But what about calling his bluff? Like, what about picking someone that he should like, and then seeing if it becomes just a no, I want to be the ultimate person who's in control of who wins or who gets appointed to the Supreme Court. I'm not sure if there's like a final process of like, I know that the president appoints, the Senate confirms. I don't know if there's like a step 3 to that voodoo dance. But what about calling his bluff?
Who's his boss? He's the majority leader of the Senate. He controls what.
Well, no, he's gonna block anyone you nominate.
Yeah,
okay.
I think he would.
do that.
Nominate Amy Booker. Nominate John Willett. See what he does.
And honestly,
he'd pass Amy Coney Barrett.
Well, hang on, Haley. I think you were onto something there. Honestly, what I would do if I were in that position is I would run a behind-the-scenes sabotage to take the majority leadership from him. And
so, I mean, is that a stupid, like, I mean, not saying that you would necessarily do it, but is that a stupid train of thought? Like,
I don't think so.
I know where you're leaning, but like, is there a mechanism to save that? Because what if you do like appoint the next, they're like, all right,
there's no mechanism.
Why would he ever cede power? Why would
you don't need to
ever let him cede power?
You don't need to cede power. It's the same way that Rick's Speaker of the House. The Senate actually gets to vote on who the majority leader is.
I get that, but why would they ever change?
Yeah, why would they pick? You'd have to pick someone further right than him.
I don't think you have to pick someone further right than him. I think you need to pick somebody that people will back. I mean, the Democrats are going to do it. So, okay, assuming you're planning a sabotage, you have the Democrats on board. What is it now?
The only
47, 48 of them. So you already have almost half the Senate. What you need is a defection of about 5 to 6 Republicans.
Sure.
You could do that if you promised them all something that would help them in some way. I mean, this is the way politics works. I mean, keep in mind, there's a lot of backdoor dealing. This is how this works.
This is the way politics used to work.
It still works. That
You're talking about 5 to 6 Republicans.
I will absolutely. I'll stake my life on it.
No,
I promise you that if you actually, these people are elected to 6-year terms. If you actually promise them something that's going to guarantee them a Mitch McConnell spot of you're untouchable for 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. If you hand them something where your home state is going to just never, ever vote against you.
No, I think
that can be done. No, I mean,
it works for that.
20 years ago, I'd agree with you. I would totally agree.
Okay, look, you guys, hang on. Let's stop and go back a second. The reason that Mitch McConnell sits atop Kentucky and owns the fucking state is that the entire push is to keep coal going while they strip mine mountains.
I was going to say because nobody pushed him into a wood.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't matter. You couldn't. You could not. You couldn't.
I like Drew's suggestion on this one. I am a big fan of Drew's strategy for Mitch McConnell.
Drew, what did you have to say?
Oh, just drone strikes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not. Jesus fucking Christ, we're not actually going to get on this channel and talk about armed insurrection, right?
No.
Because if we are, the boogaloo sounds.
Not officially.
I'm full term boogaloo. I mean, like, yeah, if we're gonna talk about dumb shit.
I'm kidding, but anyway,
there was a joke.
I'd like to hear RJ's take on this. On what you were on the last 20 years ago, you said blah 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 blah.
Oh yeah, I think that political calculus in the United States has really shifted over the past. I mean, you could probably draw it back to 1980. Theoretically back to 1950, but I would say around the time that George W. Bush was elected.
Mm-hmm.
So about 20 years. I think that political calculus has completely flipped in that what James was just extolling, that you could, I mean, I don't mean this to sound bad, that you could pay off the right people to do the right things.
That's how politics works. Yep.
Used to. I think it used to work that way. I think that there are greater machinations in play now.
Okay, what are those machinations, if you don't mind?
Those are things like the Koch brothers. Those are things like people with billions of dollars who will tell you whether you get to run next time or not.
Well, wouldn't that involve Citizens United? When was Citizens United?
I was going to say Andy Ogles, but go ahead.
Citizens United, I think, is where you got that actual opening.
You seem to be laboring under the view that we live in a democracy rather than a kleptocracy.
Okay, again, though, your voting constituency, and I really I don't mean to insult the general voter, but I do at the same time. We are the useful idiot. All of us are.
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay, but we are. I mean, as a conglomeracy for each state, we're the useful idiot for each state.
There are lots of people who just vote.
Yeah,
sure.
And they're the useful idiot. Like,
no,
awesome.
One
issue they care about.
James, the useful idiot are the people who don't vote.
Mm-hmm.
That is the game today. That's the game. Who can you get to not vote?
All right. Well, cool. But the traditional definition of the useful idiot is the person who does vote, and they're usually one-issue voters.
Yeah, up until about 20 years ago, I'd agree with you.
Okay, but there's still one issue.
I detect a theme here.
I mean, but anyway, my point.
We got to bring it back, guys.
Yeah.
I want to close out
my point
here.
to bring it back here is that if I'm given the option, like you put me on the debate stage and you ask me the question, how do I defeat Mitch McConnell? I usurp his leadership role. That's it. I literally find somebody else that's another Republican that I can promise the world to and give them what they want.
That's a fair response. I wish this conversation, when it started 20 minutes ago on the side.
And I don't blame anybody on the Democratic debate stage at all.
I mean, I think that, you also have to keep in mind, like, I think that what could be a solid answer is you have to realize that, like, you need to say something. You have to say something to answer that question. But also, like, maybe acknowledge that you don't want your freaking plan revealed because, you need to make sure that, like, if I am planning on doing whatever,
Oh,
internal
Haley,
too,
I
yeah.
love you so much. I mean, you really just nailed that. I was going to say I would never say this on
Because that could be said. Because
But
like,
that's my
I'm
plan.
saying
My
what I
plan is to
in
usurp that
response to that
cocksucker.
question, and
Sure.
I'm saying that like I think a fair response is, you know, you have to acknowledge something, give a a general idea, but also and just like and respectfully, I want to make sure that I can still pull that off, and it's going to require some people not knowing exactly what I'm planning. So hopefully I don't have to go that route, but yeah, I do have
I'm clapping.
I think it's legitimate.
That's the answer.
bullshit, but that's a
the
good answer.
That is the answer. You
The-
are absolutely
the
right.
only
I would
real-
never say what I just said
The-
on a national debate stage.
Okay.
Like, how the fuck would I ever be elected president? Like,
Sure.
no, I would never do that.
The only real answer is to provide an alternative to McConnell, provide incentives to the party, to whoever, to make that an attractive
And the only
option.
person who came close,
I get that.
The only person who came
But
close
guys-
is Warren saying that we would try to appease whatever.
Sure.
But then you have all the left that's over here.
May I
like,
interject for a
appeasement
moment?
sounds like what the Brits did.
Okay.
with
Okay.
the
Here's what's gonna happen.
Nazis.
Here's what's gonna happen. Drew, you're gonna make your point, and then I want to hear from each of you guys. Who are your top 4 out of this from both nights? Okay, so think about that for a second. But Drew, go ahead.
Okay, what I was gonna say is, James, I know that you feel very strongly about a lot of this, but you need to give people space to talk, because you're just gesticulating wildly and just taking up all the air in the room. Calm down, buddy. Okay.
That was your point.
That is a loving piss take. I love it.
It's
let's
just
go.
calm down.
But okay.
Okay. No, as far as the 4, I guess it's gonna be Warren. I mean, these are probably safe guesses. Pete, Harris, and I don't have any clue on the last one. I think those are the 3 that I would say are most viable.
Pick a fourth.
Pick a fourth.
Is it seriously? Go with one.
Why not Castro? Why not?
Okay.
All
right, who's next?
Next in line is Haley.
Haley, who do you think came out
Top 4.
the top 4 out of the first round?
Well, I'm gonna go, of course, with Warren. I didn't watch the first night live. I've only seen highlights. So Warren, the highlights that I've seen, Warren did pretty well. So of course I'm gonna say her. I watched the second one. I thought that my boy Pete did well. I'm also gonna go with Williamson. Everyone's talking about her. How is that not?
No.
And for the next one after that, I don't necessarily know that this is winning, but if we're actually talking about, of course Harris, but I think Gillibrand did a good job of at least making her position well known and talking enough to, one, be considered annoying and thus memorable. So I think that in thinking about the bigger goals, she's like one of the lower tiers. But I mean, and the reason why I didn't say Harris immediately is just because I don't know. There is a part of me that's like she shot from the hip and she managed to hit a bullseye. She didn't really prepare. She didn't really seem to prepare for that. And the thing is, shooting from the hip and hitting the bullseye, that's impressive. But I prefer.
But is she Annie Oakley, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I have mad respect for Annie Oakley, but I ain't voting for no cop.
But Annie Oakley also practiced that a lot.
Exactly. Is she Annie Oakley? Did she do it because it mattered? Did she do it because it was something that she intended, or was it just happenstance? And
have any of you watched Deadwood?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Season
So
2
you've
right now.
seen Annie Oakley.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, continue. RJ, go ahead. Give us what you were going to say.
Well, I'm kind of pissed at Haley because she took my fourth, which involved a prop, and I'm so I'm just so.
Oh yeah.
Do it anyway.
Toaster Williamson, sir.
Just tell us.
Oh, I'm still going to do it. Okay, so number one coming out of the debates. If you were going to grade them on their debate presence, on their forensics, Warren all the way, all day long. 100% of the time. She did a great job. She did everything she needed to. She might have been in the B League, in the D League, but she just hit every basket. She knew what she was doing. She held it down, and she owned the night. She did more than she needed to. She did a great job. On the other hand, you have to give something to Harris. I don't think that the polling is correct. I think that people are irrationally exuberant about Harris right now because she took down one of the two white guys that are super old. I don't think Biden has a path to the nomination at this point.
No, Biden's
Like I honestly,
it's easy to take down.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all jumping in
I
here.
think
But,
he's out.
yeah, sorry. I did the same thing. Archie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think he's out. Like I don't think Biden can win the nomination at this point. Sanders might still have a path. I don't think he got taken down like Biden did.
No.
I guess I would give number 3 to. I mean, Castro did okay on night 1. He didn't screw anything up. Night 2 was just such a shit show, and the first half hour was awful. To Haley's point about Gillibrand, I think she's lucky. I think if night 2 isn't such a bad show for everyone, that she gets memorized or memorialized as someone who was just, not a very nice woman for the first half hour there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe she got off easy on that, but then again, maybe we shouldn't look at women that way. So it sort of comes out in the wash. But my number 4, I'm going to give to Marianne Williamson, who I actually have here.
No, I love it. I love it.
No,
Actually, I have her here. It's a once in a lifetime thing. It's a Fermenting Opinions exclusive. I said, Sharon Williamson, you did so much on night 2. You talked and words came out. We were also impressed. I know you've written books, and I know that the books make no sense, but I would love if you would come to my house and speak about what it's like to run for president in 2020 for the Democratic nomination. And she said, no problem. And then she got wild eyes, and she started talking about how if you eat certain leaves, your digestive tract will be more healthy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Here, go fuck yourself. Okay.
Oh my god.
Hang on, but
She wants to tell you. Here, Marianne, thank you for being here. How did you feel about the debate? That is incredible. Thank you.
What she said is Donald Trump is why
I
was why aliens put things up our
okay.
asses.
Well, first
Yeah.
I have a. Do you want
Really?
I haven't given my take
Yes,
away.
yes, yes. You want me to go first? You
Oh,
want
wait,
to go first?
I want to go first, but there's a squeak in my ear. Okay,
Mhm.
it comes from Williamson. I think Warren, came out the best. So again, let's preface this with who is going to be the most viable out of what happened out of the first round versus, and let's not have that equate to who deserves to be in the top right now. But my takeaway is who is going to be at the top as a result of round 1. I think it's Warren. I think it's Biden. I think it's Bernie, and I think it's Harris. Harris for absolutely eviscerating Joe Biden. Biden just because he's Biden, because he's been the VP, because he did the cool thing with the black guy president, and he's just there. Bernie because he's very emotive and he has his fan base. Also a saturated market, just like Biden. Non-substantive entirely in that debate, but it doesn't matter because he. And let me be clear, and that plays very well. Yeah, so those are my 4. But it's really cool that you brought up Williamson because she scares the absolute shit out of me because so if you sat back and and remove yourself from these debates, from what's going on.
I'm going full fucking Roger Stone on this one.
Oh,
sucks,
you
homie.
you disgust me already.
Candidate. She's your fucking
She's
candidate.
not. She'll never be. She has fucking like less than 0.01% chance of being the nominee.
Donald Trump wasn't supposed to do it.
But Democrats.
But the internet.
But Democrats won't nominate the biggest piece of shit just to say fuck you to the other party. Republicans will do that.
The Republicans will.
Because Republicans did that, which is why we have Donald Trump as the president. No,
they're going to show.
You don't actually.
They're going to show up at your Democratic polls and shit on you.
You don't actually. But let me finish my thought. Williamson.
The good news is you can cheat your.
Let me finish my fucking thought. All right. Williamson. You get this strong waft of batshit crazy off of her when she opens her mouth, right? A lot of what she says is not isolated in a vacuum, is necessarily wrong or disagreeable. When you talk about, like gun violence as a mental health issue, that there's a systemic, problem with the way we're dealing with it.
Why does she scare you?
Because she's
total space muffin.
Let David finish this. Let's get it out, David.
You're supposed to tell me. But yes, the fact that she's not a serious candidate, she'll never be a serious candidate ever. That's concrete, right? She's never going to be a viable candidate. She'll never approach being the nominee ever. It's not going to happen. She is a nobody in that regard. But what she's saying is not in isolation necessarily wrong. It's because I can't stand you.
No, Nick,
RJ, I can't stand you right now.
Just keep going.
I'm going to keep talking while I'm putting RJ's.
Yeah, no, man. No, I'm putting you. No, do you, whatever the hell
I will
you
describe his love doll.
Yeah, we can all see it. Yeah.
No, it's great.
She doesn't have any.
The difference is that she's going to overtake the Democratic Party, most likely.
Bet money on it.
That's what right-wing trolls say.
Given the hell path we're on.
No.
Yeah, just like the Yang Gang.
Make me more money.
Yang Gang just shifted gears again.
But hang on a second. This is the same way. Like,
gonna make me more money. Thank you.
Right-wing pundits will take here's some extreme leftist something. They did something ridiculous. Ha! Look at that. This is what the left looks like. That's what's going to happen now with Williamson.
It's going to be great.
This is
realize
honk, baby.
You do have to realize.
I am fucking trudging and fighting through this talking.
Let
me just finish it, okay?
Use your top four real quick.
I did already.
What is your top four?
I just want to say, Dave, to sort of assuage your fears, one of the things that was appealing about Trump is that he didn't have a political history, and that, couldn't be used against him. In that sort of sense, he didn't have like sort of any kind of established voting pattern, and neither does Williamson. But the thing is, one of the things that I think that we've learned in the past 2 years is that we do appreciate a little bit of predictability on certain things. And I think that it's okay to be afraid of Williamson, but I also think that, her sort of the je ne sais quoi reason why she would become it is, we now know what it is, and some of it isn't that shiny. So
yeah, exactly. I think take that.
But not necessary.
I'm just helping you out.
Can you
but
give
anyway,
me the recap of your top
okay,
four?
my recap was Warren, Bernie, Biden, Harris.
Okay.
Those are the people who came out the best out of this debate round. Whether or not they deserve those spots is completely, it's immaterial to the fact that
we're forgetting one thing. Forgetting one really important thing, which is fundraising. Who's number one?
Trump.
Buttigieg.
Trump? No, hell no.
Trump has raised about 100 million right now.
Trump is at 100 million.
Trump
and just
is on.
Steamrolling the fuck out of everyone.
But we're
not talking about Trump. We're talking about the Democratic nominees.
Yes.
Which is weird and sad, but it's also a year and a half.
Buttigieg, 25 million.
Obviously, Trump is the presumptive nominee.
Buttigieg really has 25 million.
He does.
He got it since the debate.
It came out on Reuters this
And
morning.
Bernie came in second with 18 million or something, right?
Yeah. So it's doing well.
It was 18 million for Bernie.
Okay.
So I said, who I thought my top 4 were out of that. I tried to speak a little bit to Williamson. The fact that she is sort of scary as an individual, but she's a thought leader at the same time who says things that are not illegitimate. So you have to take her with a grain of salt and shot of penicillin and alien love doll. But she's not necessarily wrong, and that scares the absolute fuck out of me.
Wait. She said that she was going to beat Trump with love, basically.
Oh no, she also
So
said
she's going to beat him on the field of love.
Also not philosophically airtight.
Can we not?
Guys.
It's my turn.
You have to.
Whenever it's
You
my
have
turn.
to.
Okay, so top 4. Warren carried the day. Again, I
Yes.
will admit, and I didn't see the second debate. I just saw highlights. Warren carried the day in the first debate. I mean, it wasn't even close. Julian Castro came in second. I mean, he really did a great job, too. And I want to give him credit because I barely knew who he was. Okay, cool. In the second debate, where I'd put it at is I'd say Bernie obviously is coming in doing his Bernie thing because Bernie just yelled and screamed, never answered a question, and just did his normal Bernie shit where he's like,
lobster roll.
So yeah, socialist shit. That's what I love. Whatever. Who gives a shit? And then Harris. I mean, I did see highlights where Harris just beat the living piss out of Biden, and it was disgusting. So I'd say my top 4 goes Warren, Castro, Bernie, and then Harris. I mean, cool. There's a lot to talk about here, though.
There sure is.
And then we get dead air. Yeah.
No.
There is.
I did have pushback on, but I didn't. I realized Dave was getting frustrated.
Bring the pushback though. Yes, please, Haley.
But just with the Bernie, I mean, I get that he's coming in as a strong contender, but really, like, I kind of took it as the passion. Like, it wasn't like it seemed forced, his like angry passion in a way, and also flippant at the same time. It was like, I've been yelling about this for so long. This is what I've decided to continue yelling about. I'm not going to, and I mean, I don't know. He really, and the thing is, I've agreed with a lot of some of the things that he has said as a politician in the past, but I just really did not have a positive takeaway of him after that debate.
I feel you on that entirely. The issue is there are between 10 and 20 million Bernie supporters who are hardcore leftists that will not accept another candidate. And if you don't give them Bernie, they just won't fucking vote. We learned that in 2016.
Those people are useless.
No, it doesn't matter. No, they're useful if you give Bernie the candidacy. They'll vote.
Maybe I don't think I've never since the start of this again as a guy who voted for Bernie as a primary candidate in 2016. I've not even considered him.
And and that's fine. As anybody.
Why haven't you considered him?
He's
old and stupid
hang on a
and
second.
fucking funny. I mean,
no. She asked me. Let me answer.
Yeah.
Because I think he had a shot. Honestly, he had a shot. He had his ideas. He's not ideal. He wasn't then. He certainly isn't now. I think the party has evolved since then a little bit.
Yeah, because of his ideas.
And personally,
you all own it to Bernie. Like Bernie.
I mean, that's fine. So we've learned.
I think he had a shot. I think he missed it.
Left.
I don't think he has another realistic shot.
Yeah, no, okay, but what I'm telling you is these supporters are rabid, stupid, and they're far leftist. They don't give a flying fuck what anyone
There
says.
was
except
clearly
maybe
things that Bernie said that you agreed with, and a lot of those things, a lot of the things that I did agree with, just like on Medicare and everything, has been adopted by a lot of the candidates now.
Yeah.
They realize that it's popular, so it's also a part of it. Like, one, you don't think he has a shot, and two, like, do you like some other candidates more?
Yeah, no, and I understand what you're saying, and
I'm asking Dave.
I totally feel that. What I'm saying is that
Dave, do you like some other candidates more?
I like other
yeah, no, I
candidates
mean,
more.
I wish
like.
it'd be great if the Democratic Party.
She's
could
asked
get
me
their
like
shit
3
together.
times who I personally.
I'm just seeing if James will listen.
I'm not trying
Yeah,
to.
no,
I'm not trying to be
that's
rude.
fine. I mean, let me
She said that.
let me give the mic back to you when it was my time to answer. But
it wasn't your time to answer. She just
Yeah,
asked me a question.
I was just saying, if you would listen, that I kept on saying, Dave, do you like other candidates?
no, I mean, I understand. Go ahead, brother.
All right.
It's cool.
Is that the case?
I like Warren the best.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think because she's the person who's been driving policy that I can actually appreciate, and she's been effective at it. And she is intelligent. She knows her business. And the only thing anybody can say against her is woogity boogity Pocahontas. Like, that's all they've got is fucking racist slurs against her. I've heard no intelligent rebuttal to anything she's said in the last I don't know how many fucking years, like, other than attacking her heritage and her claims to it. That's the only negative thing I've ever heard about her from anybody on the right, which exposes to me their weakness.
No, and it's great.
That also
great.
opens a massive realm to the left to destroy her, which is what's going to happen.
Why would they
mean,
destroy her?
No. What you're missing here is that she
leftist
already got past the assassination.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what happened. What happened is
I didn't get my
she
at all.
she got past the thing that was going to come up forever with Trump.
She did it. Or see, the thing is, this is why I think Elizabeth might be smarter than all of us, which is a good thing, because she's, I keep, there's been a couple of times when I'm like, what is she doing? Just still working so hard and still trying so hard. And then here we are. I mean, she's the person who, like, no, I'm not the most charismatic trial attorney. I'm not this or that, but I've worked the hell out of this case and I'm on it and I know it. And yeah, that'll, I mean, it might not always be the charismatic closer, but.
Oh no. Yeah, you're totally right. What happened was she took the Trump bait, right?
Yeah.
Like, what happened was
the thing is, she did that on purpose.
No, she didn't do it on purpose. She fucked it up. She definitely fucked it up.
Okay.
You would never do that. You would never, at least from the left, maybe from the right. And I'm not even trying to disparage them there. I'm just saying, never from the left would you disparage the native population. You just wouldn't.
No, yeah.
It's not available to you. So she fucked up. That's what happened.
Yeah.
She took Trump's bait and she actually, technically won, but she lost and it looked really bad.
But she took the L.
Nope, exactly. She took it. She took
the L.
She took it in stride. She apologized. She said, here are my mistakes. I am not attempting to suggest that I am a person of native ancestry in a bloodline. She explained what she was doing. That's already gone.
Yeah.
Nobody's mind is going to be changed based on her heritage at this point in time. She already took the biggest shot they had.
I think that the people, you're right. No one's mind's going to be changed. The people who have already are like, oh yeah, she's, they would never vote for her anyway. If, so that's, going to be the criticism.
Right.
But I don't know, man. She's surprising me.
Let James.
That's sort of the only thing you can throw at Warren at this point is simply The Cherokee thing, yeah, it's a huge gaffe and it's disgusting on the liberal end. I mean, I'm this white blonde bitch who has no claim whatsoever to Native heritage, and I've been claiming it for the last 30 years. How I got my job at Harvard.
Well, that's what you're told.
But that's it, and it's.
I do have one other criticism of Harris.
Go ahead.
Well, aside from the fact that she's a prosecutor and a cop, and she's a really shit.
No, Warren. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was so she was talking about like marginal tax rates and talking about her the wealth tax and a couple of others like interrelational bankruptcy and tax policies, and she kept using this phrase "put it in the kitty." But she's from Oklahoma, which is where half of my family is from, and so she has this kind. She's living in Massachusetts for a while, but she still has like a slight Oklahoma twang. Just like she was talking about taxes, and she kept on saying, "And they just gotta put it in the kitty," and she kept saying, "Put it in the kitty" over and over again, and that I did not like.
Yeah, Haley, what we do is we take it, we put it in a lockbox. We just.
She said,
"Is that what the kitty means?"
Box.
Yeah.
I will put it in a
lockbox.
God, she said.
We lock it in the lockbox.
Guys, I think we're way off in the weeds at this point.
Yeah, I think
I feel like it's a good time to close this guy out. I want to ask for final thoughts, but that's gonna be another 30 minutes. So let's not do that. I think we all have our takeaways from the first round of primary debates. The only thing I'm gonna say is I hope that the second round is trimmed way the fuck down to
Is it gonna be?
No,
only serious candidates. We don't know at this point. We don't know who's going to be involved in the second round of debates.
But what we do know, David, is that they probably haven't paired it as hard as they should, because we already know.
Hey guys, can we?
No. I mean, he's right though. He's right.
No, I know, but can we close it?
Yeah, we will. We're closing it now. No, I agree. There's probably going to be still too many candidates. There's, I hate to say too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. With the whole
what the fuck, dude? All right, but continue. Yeah.
I missed something.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
You did.
But like, yes, there's too many loud noises and not enough substance.
Yeah, that's fine.
What's my takeaway from the first round? I think that's going to happen in the second round. Hopefully it'll be pared down. It won't be pared down enough. But that's what I anticipate. I will still vote for a rotted ham sandwich over Donald Trump. And those are the jokes, folks. That's where I'm at. Does anybody else have a takeaway in finality? Dead silence.
My only takeaway is that I can guarantee you I won't vote for Donald Trump. Like, I can't tell you I'll vote for a Democrat, but
will you vote for a rotted ham sandwich over Donald Trump?
Well, we'll see.
Rotted ham sandwich.
Libertarian candidate is. That's probably who I'll vote for, unless.
Bill Weld looks like a rotted ham sandwich.
The Democrats get their shit together.
I mean, who do they have, honestly?
Democrats?
No, libertarians.
I have no idea.
Rotted ham sandwich.
I would assume Justin Amash. I'd vote for him in a heartbeat. I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's got a little bit of moral spine. I can admire that.
That's actually a response.
There's another person who threw his hat in the GOP. There, maybe from a congressman from Washington. There's someone or governor of Washington.
Ben, are you talking about Ben Sass or Sasse or I can't?
No, he's from Kansas. He's a senator from Nebraska.
Yes, FO.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, there's another.
Guys, check out the merch store.
But I mean, our whole point here. I'm sorry.
By the way, I found the Elizabeth Warren quote in case anyone was really.
Sure, go ahead. What was the Elizabeth Warren?
I mean, no, it wasn't. It was. I'll say it whenever we go off. But
we're there now, Haley. Go for it.
It was when you make it really, really, really big, put a little back in the kitty so that the next kid gets a chance, and the kid after that, and the kid after that. Put it in the kitty.
What the fuck? That sounds so
and actually, whenever I Googled it, it actually is a phrase about like, I guess that was maybe what people called a piggy bank
I don't care, man. That sounds.
I don't. It's not on Urban Dictionary, so it's not hip.
Is it? But is it on the Heart Eyes Alien?
It's
on the-
literally.
And what is she drinking?
Britannica.
Is that a roofie colada, sir?
It's Bullet Rye.
I'm not gonna make.
Yeah, okay.
Jokes about what she's drinking.
Guys, okay, so this was entertaining. We're not all.
Yeah.
We're pretty drunk.
Yeah.
But,
not on my end, but okay. But it's time to call it.
yeah, it's time to call it. This was entertaining. Hopefully more entertaining than the first round of debates. Which we're not great.
Especially
We're not
the second and
fantastic.
first round.
If you wanted to watch for substance, I hear it was the first round that you wanted to watch. The second round was kind of garbage.
It was a lot more flashy,
But anyway,
a lot more dumpster fiery, which is also flashy. And that is my takeaway. And I think it's probably a good time to end it. If you guys are really entertained by this, you can find more of our shenanigans on YouTube. We have our Fermenting Opinions channel. We have a Facebook page and group. Also, www.fermentingopinions.com. As well as the podcast Fermenting Opinions, which is really the primary of what we're doing.
Yeah, the kind of idea.
Yeah, it's the kind of idea. We do a podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Beyond Pod, and other venues for downloading podcast materials. Shout out to Ross James at jamesmedia.com. He's a phenomenal digital wizard and photographer, entrepreneur, yada yada. Great guy. Please check out his work on his page and what he's doing. It's cool stuff. Get some prints. He's a good guy. That said, I'm David Biden.
I'm James McVeigh.
We're Fermenting Opinions. This has been our hangout on the unfortunate first round of primary debates, and that is all. And
this is the first episode of many episodes to come.
Oh gosh,
liberals eat their own.
But did we?
Yeah. Oh.
I mean,
yeah.
we ate our own,
Anyway,
but I don't know if they did.
Anyway, yep, we're
Anyway.
signing out.
We're signing out. You guys have a good night. Cheers.